listening to whatever concerns the residents may have, what questions you may want to raise. You can ask all the candidates. You can ask a particular candidate. That's up to you. As at the prior Zooms, we have John Cantwell, who's going to be helping us with getting the questions. Thank you, John, for setting this all up tonight. And the format will be, you have two options. You can either raise your hand and ask the question out loud, which, would love if you did that, but you don't have to do that. In order to raise your hand, just go to the bottom and where it's participants, click on participants, and over on the right-hand side, you'll see an option for raise your hand at the bottom of the list of names. So you can do that, and John will unmute you so you can ask your question. Alternatively, if you'd rather not ask it aloud, you can just put it in the chat box, and that's also at the bottom next to participants. You can put your question in the chat box and send it. It will go directly to John, who will then read the question. So before we get started on the question, as I started with last week, March 16th, important date to remember, that's the date for the election. And this year, you will have a choice on the ballot, unlike in prior years. And FABGC is putting forth candidates, a candidate for mayor and 4 trustee candidates representing the 4 different sections of Garden City. And before we get started, I guess we'll just introduce ourselves. I'm Mary Carter Flanagan, and I am the candidate for trustee from the Western section.
Good evening. I'm Cosmo Venezielli. I'm the nominee for mayor.
I'm Bruce Chester, and I'm the nominee for trustee from the estate section.
I'm Terry Deegan, and I am a nominee for the Central section.
You're muted, Tom.
Tom, you're muted.
Wait, that's my fault. I've got to help him unmute.
Have you two been arguing? Is there a problem here?
I was on mute. And
Good.
thank you, John. Yeah, I'm Tom O'Brien, and I'm a candidate for the East.
Right, and just if anyone missed our prior Zooms, they're on our website, and I will let you all know our website is a great resource to learn more about, why we're doing this and what our platform is, and that is fabgc.org, just FABGC.org. And on there, you can read more about the candidates. You can also watch our prior Zooms, and you can get more information on our platform and on voting on March 16th or by absentee ballot. So at this point, John, do we have questions coming in?
Nothing yet.
All right, there was one, actually, I know, Don, there has been back and forth on Facebook, and I know there was one series of questions that you were gonna, I'm not sure.
There was one from a woman on the Hill, Heather, I can't remember her last name, who doesn't have time to make these meetings, but she wanted to know if you were going to bring back the Andy Foundation and the Jay Gallagher, or at least offer to bring it back. What would your thoughts be? What would you charge them as nonprofit organizations? I believe that was her question. At first, she wanted a dollar sign, but I think theoretically is probably a better. What do you guys think you would charge something like that?
I'll take that one first, and then I'll pass it on if anyone else wants to respond. I did see what her inquiries were, and this has become part of our platform. The 2 events that were featured in our last article in the Garden City News that really brought it to our attention were the Andy Foundation tag sale and the Jay Gallagher tournament, which were both major charitable events, community-based, that left or ended due to an increase in rent. And what we have discussed and why this became part of our platform is, we think, as at least myself as a trustee, I think it's important that we value our community-based charities. And I think many of us who have raised kids in this area have seen our kids benefit, and participate in these, and the whole community has really come together under these types of events. And what is in our platform is that, you know, in recognizing their value, the village wouldn't be looking to profit off of charity events in town, which is what had been happening and part of why we've seen a reduction in the number of events here in Garden City. So as far as the dollar amount, it would depend on the event and the cost to the village. And I know Heather, and I'm not sure, Heather, if you are on the call, perhaps you are. I know she was proposing free rent for particular charities. That really isn't what I was thinking. My thoughts would be that at cost, that we would not be profiting off of the charities. So whether it was the field house or the fields that were being requested, you know, we would look into what the costs to the village are of providing the venue and set the rate based on that. But we would consider community-based charities differently than other events. And the other thing I wanted to say on that, and I know in the back and forth, there was some talk about grandfathering particular charities. I personally think that all community-based charities should be treated equally. And it wouldn't be a grandfathering situation because, you know, in 5 years, a charity may come along that's every bit as important to our town as ones that have been longstanding events. So as far as dollars, you know, that's something that would need to sit down and look at the cost, and it would depend on which venue. And I don't know if the other candidates want to add something to that. I do wish Heather was here because then you could see if that fully answers her questions. If you
I
want
would
to raise your hand.
I would just agree with that, Mary. I would think we'd have to look at what the costs and expenses are for the village and that we should recoup that, but nothing more. I mean, these are charities that raise money for very, very good causes. And that would be the direction that I would take. Just get the expenses reimbursed for the cost to the village, and that's it.
I wasn't a part of the negotiations, but I'm pretty sure my conversations I've had with people, the Andy Foundation did offer to cover costs, and I think an additional kicker on top of that. And it was still not enough for the village at the time. So that to me is a shame. The Andy Foundation should have been in there. Now, whether or not you could resurrect the Jay Gallagher, which I was a part of for many, many years, it raised over $1 million over the years. Tony Randy's now been out of it now, probably 3 or 4 years. Whether or not he is interested in raising it, I don't know. But I think it was certainly something to look into. And I agree with you, Mary, that some other homegrowns should be given the ability to do that as well.
The Jay Gallagher tournament from Tony Randy, which last year was in 2017, they were charged for, I believe, 16 or 17 years. It was free. Then they covered cost 2,000, and then it went up to 30,000. I think they cut it back to 10, but the next year it was going up to 30,000, and they said that's almost as much as we raise. So he closed it down. I coached in that probably 10 years. We had people coming all over from the East Coast. People that graduated from Garden City High School went and lived in Connecticut, came back. And as you say, it raised, $50, $60, $70, $80,000 every year for different charities. And, again, it's gone. So it is what it is.
Yeah, but I agree with you, Don. I agree with everything that's been said so far. Again, these are institutions to our town. We have to maintain these institutions because there's a tremendous benefit to the residents and to the kids that are involved. And again, I think we should all look at this thing very carefully, look at it on a conceptual basis where, I agree with Mary that we should not profit from these venues, right? We should provide a framework so we can keep these institutions going in the village.
Tom's muted again. I'm not sure, John, if you wanted to add.
Was I
Yeah.
muted, John?
I've been muted. I can't get off the mute for some reason. John maybe can help me. But I agree with everybody. We shouldn't charge more than the cost. And those are great charitable organizations. They've been part of Garden City. And people are really behind it. They have great causes. And then I think we should consider other charities, and the town can decide with our help which other charities might be a nice venue to raise money for people in need, or different activities for kids, etc.
I guess at this point, I'll open it up since Heather, who first posed these series of questions, isn't here. Is there anyone on the group, since we're on this topic, who has any other, comments or questions on the issue of that portion of our platform regarding charitable events, community-based charities?
I have one other thing I'd like to add. For those that don't know it, Jay Gallagher and his family were longtime residents of Garden City. And he was a lacrosse and football player at Garden City High School. And then he went on to play in collegiate lacrosse and coached at Cornell University before passing away from melanoma.
I've got a live question from L. Waltzer.
Yes, thank you. This is for Cosmo and Tom O'Brien, the EPOA candidate. I've raised this question about the National Grid, Northwest Nassau National Gas Integrity Project line, which unfortunately now is shown on the map going down the middle of Arthur Street, and the Arthur Street residents and I are very concerned about this. I've raised it at 2 trustees meetings, and I've written a lengthy letter to the Board of Trustees and the mayor, but I just wanted you both to be aware of this. And it's something that they need to fix because they diverted it from the Mott section onto Arthur Street in negotiation with National Grid, and unbeknownst to the residents of Arthur Street. So I'm trying to keep that alive and keep them renegotiating with National Grid because it has no business going down Arthur Street.
Well, can I respond to that?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I think it's a great point you raised. In fact, I raised it up to the group that's on the phone here because on the Zoom here, because I wasn't sure how that decision was made. But from what you're telling me, again, it's a matter of transparency. All of a sudden, you have them coming down Arthur Street, and you're not aware of it. So one of the questions I have for you, you actually wrote to them, and I guess spoke to the trustees, I'm imagining. I was curious what response they had to you.
Yes, at first I found it only by chance on the National Grid map after I read the EPOA newsletter where it said they were congratulating themselves for diverting it from the Mott section. And then it said it was coming down County Seat Drive. And I said, wait a minute, County Seat Drive is the end of my street. And then, sure enough, the National Grid map had it coming down Arthur Street, but Arthur Street was not marked on the map, only County Seat Drive. So I called the Village Hall. I spoke to Swazi, and Delaney returned calls to me. And I also wrote a lengthy letter to the mayor and the Board of Trustees. I engaged some residents on my street, and I CC'd them on the letter. I raised it at the meeting in December and the meeting in January, and they assured me that they were advocating for us with National Grid to redirect it either through the parking lot or through the right-of-way behind Arthur Street, which is also another boondoggle for residents of Arthur Street, that right-of-way. I mean, that's better than down the center of Arthur Street, but so they told me they're working on it, but I just want you to be aware of this because it's really, if you've been down Roslyn Road for the last 2+ years, it's really a nightmare for if that's going to come down our 2-lane street. That's 4 lanes, Roslyn Road, and it is just, it's unbelievable, the excavation and the igloos that are 24/7 with lights, and it's so disruptive. I can't imagine that down a residential street. So we're pretty, we have a lot of anxiety on Arthur Street. That's all I can say. It says it's scheduled for spring 2021, which is a couple of months from now. So I really hope that this has a good outcome.
Well, it's interesting.
Have any other residents been involved with you?
Yes, I've been the major spokesperson, but they, a couple of them made comments at the December meeting, And, they've been included on the emails, the letter to the mayor and the trustees. I think some of them don't realize, not everybody responded to my neighbor's outreach, but, people are busy and I don't think they understand the implications of this
Yeah.
massive
Well,
gas main.
Unfortunately, once they start digging up the street, you realize what's happening.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Well, it's similar to those 100 feet poles at the Maryland Avenue train station. All of a sudden they're up, and that's when you find out what happened. So
Exactly.
I think it's something that has to be watched very closely, and I'm happy to get involved in looking at that.
Thank you.
I think Mineola, Roslyn Road is a good example. The residents are extremely upset and they've been dealing with it for quite a long time. So I've heard from a few of them, and maybe we can give you some context. I don't know what they're doing, but they're not happy. And I know they've expressed that to their village trustees and mayor.
Yeah, it's pretty horrendous.
Yeah, it is. I drive through there, so it definitely is.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
All right, I got a couple of that were chatted to me now. What about the Cathedral Nursery School? Do the candidates have any thoughts on revisiting the eviction and bringing back the Cathedral Nursery School?
I don't know if someone else wants to.
I think Bruce is trying to speak, but we can't.
Well, I was just going to say, I wasn't going to add any. I mean, I've heard from a few people that they're very upset by it, but we'd have to review that and take a look at it and see the reason for that decision. But I know there are a number of residents, younger residents, that are upset by it. So it's something we have to review.
Yeah, I think we would hear from them the same way. The Andy Foundation and Jay Gallagher are obviously easier to, do a quick startup. But as far as the Cathedral Nursery School, we would certainly, welcome discussions with them as well.
My understanding, Mary, that the nursery school is closed right now, and that was a terrific amenity for the residents. And it's right now it's just a dormant structure. So I agree with you. We would really have to look into that right away and see what can be done, because it doesn't make sense not to have that facility operating.
I agree.
Yep.
Agreement as well.
Yeah.
All right, another one that's probably for all of you, or maybe just one. There are many rumors going around that you're not in agreement with the community agreement. Are you? And is there anything that you disagree with that you wish to change?
I'll start that because I just wrote a letter to the Garden City News on that particular topic that should be in on Friday. And I think there is a lot of misinformation going around that we are looking to change or opposed to the community agreement. It couldn't be farther from the truth. We have spoken about a lot of different issues. We're proposing, we worked a lot on our platform. There is no discussion about changing the community agreement, no interest in changing the community agreement. I think that it's a historic, it's part of our village that I have a tremendous amount of respect for. The history of it is very interesting. We wouldn't have Garden City, as it is today, likely without the community agreement. It was really drafted to unite the sections of the village to what we now know as Garden City. And in the way that we are presenting a platform is also, out of respect for the community agreement, that we are putting up a candidate from the West for mayor, and the other 4 candidates are from the 4 different sections of town. The candidate, one of them, and it's a little complicated, the 1-year finishing term would be, for the Western section is our candidate. Myself is also from the Western section. So we do not have any, desire to in any way change the community agreement. And I don't know if someone wants to add on to that.
I think it was well put, Mary.
Go ahead, Tom. Yeah.
Yeah, just well put. It's very good.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting now that some of the current trustees running for reelection are now calling themselves the Community Agreement Party, and emphasizing that. And Mary articulated very well that we certainly are not against that. I think the frustration, and everyone else can chime in. My frustration is the POA has not worked well, and it's been a disaster for the estate section, for the northern estate section. No help at all in dealing with the poles, the wires, really the third track construction period, from the train station and how it looks now to everything along the line. And to have them come out with the Long Island Railroad's talking points and totally ignoring the concerns of the residents is outrageous. And that's one of the reasons certainly that I'm running, and I'm sure the others will have their issues with the various POAs. They've got to represent us, and we certainly want that to happen, and we welcome an involvement in it. And I certainly expect to be involved with the estate's POA, but right now they're not serving as well.
And the other
I would
thing
add on to what you said, Bruce. I think it's been a marketing plan on their part to sit there and say that we are the establishment. They don't like the fact that they are being contested, but they want to be known as a community agreement. This is the way it's been. This is the way it should always be,
Right.
which is not the case.
No.
On a light note, in deciding how we would appear on the ballot, I did speak with someone about perhaps we should be like the other community agreement party, but I think that would be entirely confusing to to Garden City, as people went in to vote. But that's in our heart. That's how we feel about it. We're for the community agreement as well.
Absolutely.
If I could just chirp in one thing, a lot of people here that are long-term residents. We learned about this. I think I learned about the community agreement, Mrs. Dunn's third grade. And you all have to point to the POAs that do an enormous amount of volunteer work and good. It's really an issue of, are you satisfied with this board of trustees? Are you satisfied with the product that comes out of each of the POAs? And if you're happy with what's happening on some of these bigger issues, then I think everybody should stick with it. If you're not, it's just a replacement candidate that will follow the community agreement. It's very, very simple. It's been done before. It's nothing new. And frankly, in some ways, it's a safety valve when you have a very, very poor performing board of trustees. And I think most people think historically this is that you can write it. And that's really what it's about. And that's really how this whole thing started. It's not a community agreement issue. It's a board of trustees issues, and whether they listen to the residents and have really made the right decisions over the last couple of years.
I think that's it, Don. You hit it on the head. I think it's about decision-making, right? It's about people we have in power in the village making decisions for the rest of the residents. And the reason why we're all here is because we know that these decisions have been poorly made, and they've affected the quality of life for the residents.
And cost the residents money.
Exactly.
Any follow-up questions on the community agreement while we're on that topic?
Nobody chatted me. I do occasionally get the chat that people either want to clarify what you're saying or something like that. So people have got that figured out.
Yeah, and just one last note on the community agreement. I feel like this group is like a kind of shows the incredible success of the community agreement. It was drafted when they didn't know we could all be one village together, govern together. It was the West fighting against the East, or the estates, and FABGC, this group that came together. Most of us didn't even know each other before we got involved, and we're from all four sections of town. It's not a group from the East, the West, the estates, or Central. It's a real mix, and I think it kind of shows how unified we are as a village, thanks to the community agreement.
Very well put, Mary.
Absolutely.
Would the candidates all be in support of continuing the legal course of action against with regards to the monster polls?
Maybe Bruce should lead on that and
Listen,
then
I'm sure you're going to jump on this.
Yes, I am. I'm sorry to ask you to repeat that question. I just, I got a question.
Would the
Okay.
candidates be in support of continuing the legal course of action with regards to the monster polls?
Absolutely. I think, we're certainly all in agreement that we want to watch our expenses for the village, which has not been done. But in this particular case, we need to assist the Northern Estates residents. They've been through a lot. They've been through noise, trucks coming down their street, damaging their street, their landscaping being ripped out, loud noises at all hours of the night, a station that's basically a monstrosity. I mean, all of that is really, it's ridiculous that they've had to deal with it. And this should have been done by the board, or certainly done by the third track committee back when these polls were going up, and it wasn't. So yes, we would continue with, on the path of litigation, but of course, looking at it, we haven't seen everything. We haven't seen some of the things that might have been agreed to by this board, by the third track committee. And once we get on, I mean, we'll certainly get a look at that. And maybe they put us in such a position that it would make it difficult to litigate. But I certainly think we have to try to go forward if it's feasible.
I agree, Bruce. The process, we have to go through the process and see what develops and what's discovered, right? Through the legal process. Like you said, this is a blight on the village. I mean, this looks like a terrible part of an industrial town. It's just awful what you guys have gone through. And I think, we all feel the same way. It can happen in any part of the village, right? In my opinion, there's always been that the minute that first poll went up, everything should have been stopped. An injunction should have been filed and everything should have been stopped. But nothing happened. They just continued on their merry way, doing whatever they had to do. And now you have what you have. It's just a terrible scenario.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This is not Garden City. This is not the beauty of Garden City that we all came here. And of course, a number of you have grown up with it. It just has adversely affected it. And really for anybody in the village, if you're driving down Northern Boulevard and you're heading north on Nassau Boulevard, Nassau Boulevard going north or going south, and you look at that train station and you look at all these poles, I can't imagine any of the village residents feel happy with that.
Yeah. If I could add to that, I can tell you firsthand because I grew up across the street from Maryland Avenue on Houston Road. So that's where my mom's house is. And it's a total fiasco. And as you mentioned, Bruce, there's no shrubbery at this point. When on TV, when they were, in fact, I was interviewed about it on TV. And when the interview took place in CBS News, they spoke to the head of the Long Island Railroad. And he said, well, we'll put shrubbery up. And the newscaster said, but they're 100 feet tall. He had no really response for that. So anyway, the other thing that's I think alarming is the lighting. The lighting is so bright and it goes all the way down that it's very disturbing for people at night. And most of the construction, because I used to go visit my mom there before she passed, and most of the construction was at night, loud, and I didn't even realize the poles were going up till they were up, like you said.
I think it's very safe to say it was the Board of Trustees not doing their job.
That's absolutely true. And as Tom just said, the polls all of a sudden came up on early April during the height of COVID when everybody was bunkering down. They snuck them in there. And that first couple of days, they put up a lot of polls quickly because they knew there was going to be a problem. I had a personal meeting with my next door neighbor with the public relations people at Third Track Constructors. Never was there any mention of any polls. In fact, we were told the landscaping was going to go up in the spring of 2020. Well, we didn't exactly get landscaping. We got large poles.
I'm in agreement with what everyone said on this. And this was a major issue in our village that, led to FABGC coming together.
Yes.
All right. Is there an official policy on how board meetings would be conducted going forward, specifically allowing residents to speak, be heard, and address concerns?
I
One of the
think,
things I'd mentioned last week on the heels of COVID, I think moving forward, we should have a hybrid of certainly Zoom now, but a hybrid of Zoom and in person when we're allowed to. And therefore, it gives everyone a chance to either do it via Zoom and raise an issue, raise a point, speak, be heard, and for us to hear them as well.
I don't know whether the 4-minute limitation is something that we're going to continue with. It might expand that, but that's something I guess we'll review.
Absolutely. I think, Bruce and everyone, I think there's some issues that, you really can't discuss in 4 minutes. You need much more time, and you might require special meetings with residents, right, to discuss these issues. I think that's the best way going forward, to get more people involved in our government. I've been at Board of Trustees hearings where people get cut off, in mid-sentence, and that's not fair. I think we're all residents. The Board of Trustees are residents. We're all neighbors. I think we should all work together and try to get things done collectively.
Yeah, I think that's well put. I think you have to respect people's opinions, give them a chance to have a voice. And if it requires more time, set up a special meeting so that they can continue. And people have good ideas, so it's good to share ideas. That's how we learn from each other.
Correct.
yeah, I think our approach would be much different from, for those who have been going to the Board of Trustee meetings, how they're being held. And just, as an example, I was at one meeting and in the midst of COVID, a gentleman went up and asked about the leaf blowers, voiced his concern over the leaf blowers, and no response. He had sat through like a 2-hour meeting. Obviously, this was something that meant a lot to him. He came, he sat through this whole meeting, he gets his chance to go up, and he mentions the leaf blowers and not even the courtesy of a response. And I think it also goes to the lack of community engagement, which is another issue that we're looking to address. I know there's a whole group, hundreds of people. Molly Fiedler has a sustainability group. There are people in town who are on these issues, who are knowledgeable, and we should be, rather than resisting their involvement, encouraging their involvement. And that gentleman who came to the meeting should have been responded to. And also there should be a committee. There should be community, committees addressing issues of concern to residents such as that one. So I think would be drastically different, the way we would hold the meetings.
Very good, Mayor.
All right, I got another one for you. What kind of relationship do you expect to have with the POAs should you win?
I'll answer from my end. Very collaborative. I'm easy to work with. I'm open to ideas, and I like to share my ideas with them, but I have a very collaborative approach.
Yeah, I agree, Tom. I mean, I'm in the western section. I'm involved with the POA, and I don't see any friction there at all. I think we want to get as much input as possible from all the residents. Doesn't matter if you're a POA or not.
Yeah, I'd say I think the POAs play a very important role, and I know, especially with the polls, there's a tremendous amount of dissatisfaction, especially in this estates, with regard to how they handled that. But I don't think I think they're a critical, important part of our community. They do a lot of good work. And I think it's important that the relationship be good between the trustees and the POAs.
There's no doubt about that, and I intend to keep that going. If elected, to go to the estate's POA meetings and give them reports and answer questions. And that is good points that you've brought up, that yes, they do volunteer work. They've done a lot of good work in the past. It just so happens on a major issue, it didn't work out well, but I'm sure it will for future issues that we have to deal with. And I will, welcome getting involved with the POA. It's an important part of our village. And
I too welcome getting involved with Central Properties POA as well. I think it's
one thing I've talked to a couple of you about, and I've actually mentioned it to Steve Alardi, who I have a lot of respect for, and some of the other Board of Trustees. who I would hope whoever are the 8 Board of Trustee members next year, they really form a committee to look at the really low levels of Garden City involvement in Board of Trustee meetings. I've probably been to more Board of Trustee meetings than anybody on this call. There's 10 or 12 people there tops. We have 200 people voting in elections of 22,000. That's less than 1%. So I really think it's an area ripe for the POAs and this group, should any of you be elected, to really take a look at this and figure out what's going on. When we have 200 people out of 22,000 voting, and we have 10, 12, 14 people out of Board of Trustee meetings, something is wrong. And it would really be good for a lot of people to sit down and say, what everybody can always do something better. Maybe you 5 and whoever else is there should take a look at that.
Excellent point.
Yeah, I think we have to. It's kind of interesting. I was talking to a friend today who now lives in Florida. He lived in Garden City for a good number of years. And he said, well, it shouldn't be too big a deal for you guys in the election. All you need to do is get about 300 votes. I said, well, that's not going to be the case this time, because there has not been a competitive election in 10 years, and not to the extent that we're doing it. So yes, it's frustrating that a lot of people don't get involved and vote in these elections.
The fact that, Bruce, the fact that 5 residents like ourselves got together, right? There's a reason we got together. We started seeing all these issues coming up, and we felt we had to do something. I mean, it's taken a lot of energy. People should realize how much energy it takes for everybody to make this commitment. I've been involved with the ADRB. I've been involved in several committees with the village, and it takes time. It takes time to do this properly, right? But I think it has to be effectively done. It has to be done in a precise way, right? I see issues with the Board of Trustees and the village just lingering and lingering and lingering. Nothing gets done, right? My position is that if we hit the ground running, right, we want to get things moving as quickly as possible. Form committees, address these major issues as fast as we can, and come up with a schedule. So let's hold ourselves accountable to a schedule, right? So at least we can tell the residents we want to get things done by a certain time, right? We don't want to have a situation like St. Paul's lingering for 30 years.
The casino.
I'm sorry. No, St. Paul's has been around for 30 years, the issue.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think the
I'm
idea
sorry
that
if I'm getting visceral, but I really feel very passionate about these issues.
And I think the idea that we would have committees and to handle the different problems that the village has. So to get more resident involvement might help in that direction too.
Oh, I think so. I think we have brilliant people. I mean, I've been happy. I've been on committees with some really distinguished residents. I mean, look at our group. I mean, we have some terrific people here. I'm ecstatic about our chances.
Me too.
Do we have any other follow-up questions coming in on the issue of the POAs? Because I do think we want to be clear, we're not against the POAs. We recognize the value and hard work of the POAs.
No, I think, Mary, I think the point is we're all Garden City residents. We're all neighbors, right? We all want the best for Garden City. We've come together because of some bad decisions. It's really that simple.
Yep.
Anyone else on the call want to add anything or question further on that? Right.
Yeah, I think the reason I'm running is the pattern of the bad decisions. I'm not against any person or, anything like that. It's all about the decisions that are being made. And in my case, I think I can lend some of my background and expertise moving forward to help us go in the right direction.
All right. What are the possible health environmental concerns because of the polls? Though we want things to look nice, the health issues should be a primary concern. Thoughts?
Well, I think Jim Cumble, who happened to be my neighbor, summed it up pretty well with these magnetic poles. He called it a magnetic field. There are some questions of environmental impact on us. And I do, Strawberry Field is a block away from where I live. And my youngest daughter, I used to take over there we play soccer when she was little before she got bigger and I couldn't handle her kicks anymore. But that's what I did. And recently, and during the summer, I took my granddaughter over there, trying to do the same thing. And I'm looking up at these giant poles with these wires hanging down, and it was intimidating. We didn't stay there long. And there's a woman who has 5 children who actually lives under one of those poles. So I think that's something we got to be really concerned with and look at.
But Bruce, you're telling me that they haven't done an analysis?
The village certainly hasn't. And I haven't seen any particular, analysts from it.
I mean, there should be some sort of engineering analysis on the electromagnetic radiation.
We haven't seen it, and I guess it's something we can certainly ask for.
I think it should be done sooner than later.
Yes, I agree. I'll push for that.
All right, specifically for Cosmo, with regards to the Edgemere Firehouse, did the President Board of Trustees let the WPOA Firehouse Committee speak to the firefighters or the fire commissioner? If not, do you know why not? Was PKAD allowed that access?
Well, as a member of the Western Property Owners Firehouse Committee, we have not met with the fire chief or the fire department at all. I believe PKD is working on this project through the village, through the Board of Trustees. And I'm not sure if they met with the fire chief or not, but I'm sure they had to come to some sort of meeting with them. But we have not been meeting with the fire chiefs at all. We've asked for a meeting with the fire chiefs and it has not developed.
That's certainly surprising, especially that they're not leveraging your background, Cosmo.
Well, Tom, it's not even my background, it's my committee. My committee is, pretty much upset learning that they want to tear down this firehouse and replace it with a firehouse that looks almost like this firehouse at a tremendous cost to the village.
Right.
So again, our committee is taking a different position, saying, let's understand what's really involved in the master plan for the village. Don't look at it as one building. Let's look at all the structures that are providing fire service to the village. And let's make a more intelligent analysis to see what's really needed.
$10 million is a lot of money.
Yes, it is.
All right, how would your work experience help you as trustees?
I guess we'll go, I don't know who wants to.
Sorry, I'm being distracted. That was generally for any one of you.
All right, so I guess I can, I'll start off and we'll all go through. I'm an administrative law judge and a lawyer. And I guess, that is something I thought about, as far as how that my background would prepare me to be a trustee. And I do think, I work with disputes, resolving disputes, gathering information. I think many of the things that I do as a judge, making decisions, which is a critical part of my job and something that trustees have to do. And, gathering information and listening to people. I think those are all, skills from my job that would transfer into being a, strong trustee for the village.
Well, I'm an architect and I've been an architect for over 35 years. I've been involved in all kinds of projects, multi-million-dollar projects in New York City, in Philadelphia, and in Jersey. And, my experience has been really to understand how to put a project together from the zoning point of view, legal point of view, and design point of view. And then what we do is we try to synthesize all this information, really actually put it all together to form a concept for a building or for a development of any type. So I feel that is a very, very strong suit that I have, because going into the village and looking at some of the projects, the firehouse, St. Paul's, other things that may develop in the village, I can really advise the village on a very, very high level.
I'll give my background a little bit. First of all, I'm honored to be asked to serve, and I think from a business perspective, I bring a lot to the table that can be leveraged as a trustee. So I've been in management and IT consulting for 30 years, working with Fortune 500 companies at the C level, helping them make really critical decisions. And I've managed over 300 people in my business unit. And I'm a good listener, and I listen to what their needs are, and I come up with solutions. That's what they pay me to do. So on the town side, you know, I come from a big family that grew up in Garden City. I have a lovely family, and I'm a family person, very active in the community. St. Joseph's Church, I'm one of 2 trustees. I've been on many boards, non-for-profit boards. I have a lot of non-for-profit experience. And I think in a nutshell, you know, I feel that I will always try, well, I'll let you know that I will always try to do the right thing. And I listen to the people, and I'll always try to make the right decisions on people's behalf and what's in the best interest of the town.
I've been in the insurance business for 45 years, going on 46. I worked for a large insurance carrier, the Travelers Insurance Company, for a number of years, and then ran my own business for 30 some odd years until I merged in with a firm right here in Garden City. And as an insurance broker, I insured a number of municipalities, fire departments, water districts, country clubs, school districts. I've got to look at their budgets and everything else because I needed to do that to determine the insurance that they needed and the cost for that insurance. And of course, running my own business, I had to run a profitable business. I couldn't spend more than what I had, and also to meet the payroll for my employees. So it's something that I would bring to the table. I've run various organizations, including my professional organization for Long Island. I was president of it. Part of that was to lobby in both Albany and Washington on insurance issues that didn't just help us as agents, but help consumers. So I think I would certainly bring that to the village in terms of that experience, and as well as running a very number of service organizations that did a lot of charitable work. So that's the experience I would lend to the village.
And I'm somebody who spent almost 35 years working on Wall Street, various capacities, mostly sales trading, but in the same period, managed some businesses as well. So in charge of hiring, firing, budgeting, and always trying to meet, you know, certain goals within that. And for someone who's been there for as long as I have to say, I think I must have done something right to have been in the business for as long as I have been.
Any other questions coming in? I think we had
Yeah. Was that everyone? Sorry, I missed the
5,
first.
yep.
I missed the first bit.
For good reason.
Yeah, I was oohing and awing over ballerina pajamas. How do each of the candidates feel about the board's reluctance to give the casino a timetable for a new lease? Do you think the casino property is in danger of being sold under the current board?
I don't think you can not be concerned if you've been following about what the board's intents are with the casino. It's the transparency, you know, it goes to the major transparency issue on our platform and concerning many residents. I think it's been said they've been talking about it for 5 years, and I think we should all wonder why we haven't heard what they've been talking about. And that's concerning, whether it's the casino or something else you cherish in this town. We should know what's going on with the government. I think there have been statements now made that they were discussing at least a lease and perhaps a sale. And I think it's been clear, at least one trustee has clearly stated that, you know, he's thinking of getting rid of, you know, changing the restriction on the property so it no longer has to be used by residents for recreation. So
I don't understand how this could be an issue. It's been around forever. I consider it, it's been around longer than the pool, but it should be used like the pool. Whoever wants to join can join. To me, I don't understand how it's even an issue that's brought up.
It's an outrage. This is an institution in this town. It's been around so long. My wife and I have a number of friends that are members there, and they were very upset with being strung along and then hearing that the village, and one trustee in particular, was thinking about selling it. I just think that's a total outrage to do something like that. That's been such a part of this village that people can enjoy and play tennis there and stuff. And we've been to functions there, different dinners that are nice. It's just, I don't understand it. I really don't, that they've strung the casino people along.
Well, I concur with Mary. It's really about transparency. And I still don't understand why they don't have a long-term lease, why they've been strung along year after year in the recent years. And again, this is an institution in our village. Anybody can join. It's a wonderful venue. And just like you said, Bruce and Mary, we just don't understand why this is happening.
And I agree with everybody. And going way back, I think it was called the Garden City Company. They deeded it as a recreational facility in the area. So it's like the community agreement. Why should we undo that, right? And then I think the other thing is, since people have realized that I'm running, I've been approached by a lot of members at the casino, and to echo everything that everybody said, there's a real concern. They don't understand the delay. And it's been an institution, I think, as Bruce said, for the community, serving not only the members, but the community.
Right.
Weddings, meetings.
Right.
Class reunions,
Pardon me?
class reunions.
Yes, class reunions. I remember the men's club, they had their awards dinner there. It's been a great institution in the village. Why should we undo such a great place? It's terrific.
Right, and would potentially lose the access we have. I think the football, sports teams use it. It's available for residents, even if you don't join and play tennis there. It's an available venue for residents that we all have access to and have enjoyed. And I get
the Cathedral Church has a lot of events there too.
the other thing that I don't know if there's misunderstanding about too is that it doesn't cost us anything. And it's all maintained. That beautiful historic building is maintained at the cost of the members, the people who join to play tennis there, which is another benefit aside from, the community institution that it is. It's also preserving a beautiful corner of our village and the historic building.
Yeah, that's a good
At
point.
no cost.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mary.
All right, I've got just a couple of, I think will be short follow-ups and then another question. For you, Cosmo, somebody asked, what is PKAD?
PKD is the name of the firm. It's I don't know exactly the abbreviation, what it stands for, but it's for the firm that was hired by the Board of Trustees to redesign the Edgemere Firehouse.
I think
Okay.
it's Philip Camp Architectural Design.
I believe so, yeah. I can't put the names together right now, Mary. I'm sorry.
I don't
Wait.
think
They
the
were-
question was trying to get at the names on the door.
Yeah, they always go, it always is listed as PCAD though.
Yeah, it's Philip Camp.
Yes, correct.
And who is the trustee who spoke of selling the casino?
Well, it seemed to me that it was trustee Brian Dorney from what I've heard. But that's what I've heard.
I think-
Trustee Donnelly had also stated it, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but this FAB really got started around the issues of the casino and the fact that how poorly they reflected on the Board of Trustees. The fact that nobody here knows, and there's a lot of casino people on 3 years in, what's going on. I was the guy that put the McDonald's over the casino because it really represents what are they going to do? Nobody knows. So 14 weeks ago, 12 weeks ago, the mayor and trustee Minuto, they said, we're going to have something in 3 to 4 weeks. It's 12, 13, 14 weeks later. I'm sure there's casino people on this call for 3 years do not know what's going on. I don't know how they get new members to join. I don't know how they take care of the building because they don't know if they're going to be in there a week from now or a year from now. I don't know how they even schedule events there. I would not schedule something 3 months out. So to leave 200 tax-paying residents that I view them as the perfect nonprofit. They take care of the building. They cost the village nothing. They're a good neighbor to the people across the streets. They're all in bed by 8 o'clock. There's no lights there. It is the most egregious, illogical, in a long line of illogical things this Board of Trustees done. And it really, I thought 12 weeks ago saying, we're gonna have something for you in 3 to 4 weeks. And as of today, they haven't heard a thing. It's just, and they admitted, they asked for the financials in January of this year for the first time in 3 years. Who knows what's going on? This is all supposed to be done under open meeting laws. Nobody knows what's going on. It is terrible what they've done to these people.
You know, whoever asked that question, I would recommend the Zoom meeting tomorrow night with the Board of Trustees. That someone asked the Board of Trustees, because nobody else knows what their plans are. I think that the statement made by Brian Donnie that was published in the Garden City News that was clearly evidencing, you know, a push to destroy the casino as what we know it to be. I think it was either a lease or a sale, and that would be a question for him and for the board as a whole. And we did an article on the open meetings law, and as residents, under the open meetings law, anytime something is being deliberated by the Board of Trustees with minimal exceptions, it's required to be discussed in public. And I haven't seen any public discussion of the casino. And while there's a real estate exception, it's hard to imagine it would apply here. It's only discussing real estate if it would reduce the value. And I don't see how discussing their potential sale or lease of the casino would reduce its value.
But I think we
So-
also have to stress, this is a place that's open to any resident of Garden City. So you're kind of
Right.
taking a park away from people, so to speak.
So please ask the Board of Trustees and let us know.
Really quick, Don, you said trustee Donnelly, and I don't know if you're talking about former trustee Donnelly or you're talking about existing trustee Delaney.
No, former trustee Donnelly told the head of the casino, Pat McNamara, that he had been trying to cut a deal with the casino. Donnie now, as Mary said, obviously tried to destroy it. I did not mean Delaney, and I have no idea what Delaney's view is on this, nor does anybody have any view of any of the trustees' view on this. They haven't said a word.
Tomorrow night, bring it up. Maybe we'll
Right.
all find out.
I've got a couple more. Can you talk about your proposal for trustee term limits and what are your opinions about the round robin for mayor?
I guess we can all comment. I don't know if we
It
haven't,
wasn't for anybody in particular.
An
So
open
yeah, let's start
question.
with Mary, who's on the screen.
so we haven't discussed specifics or, decided on, what positions on specifics as to the term limits. And I personally think that would be something that should be discussed in the open, and there should be input from people who have served as trustees as far as what would be the ideal term limit. And one thing with the rotating mayor position is I do think it's common for people to wait until it's their chance to be mayor rather than serving 4 years as a trustee and never being mayor. And I think those issues should be openly discussed with a lot of input with people involved in the government to come up with what would best serve the village as a reform in our Board of Trustees. And I'll pass it on to whoever wants to give their opinion, but we don't have on our platform a number.
Yeah, I think that term limits are healthy. It brings in new ideas, new bloods, and those that are leaving should do a transfer of knowledge for the new trustee. But I think having new views, new thoughts, and a new person is very healthy for any organization. And that's why a lot of corporate boards have term limits.
I don't think we necessarily want to stay on 8 to 10 years. It depends. Some of us might, some of us don't want to do that. So we just want to get things done. make some changes that are badly needed. And that's why we talk about that. But I don't necessarily think, that we're all going to wait around until it would be our turn to be mayor.
I think term limits are an excellent idea. I agree 100% with what Tom had said with regards to fresh blood, new ideas. It's kind of a turnover and kind of a transfer of knowledge. I think it's a very smart thing to do. And I think you could leave the seat in a better place than how you got it in that regard, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree with all the comments. I mean, again, our platform does include term limits. We don't know what they are yet. I'm sure it's going to be very consistent to what has been happening before. But again, we have to just discuss it amongst ourselves and discuss it with other trustees, as Mary suggested.
And another consideration in the term limits too, or another advantage to them other than the one stated, is I think it could help withdraw more people into the POAs. And getting
Absolutely.
more people involved in the POAs, knowing that there would be different opportunities rather than, a lot of people involved in the POAs, but there are only, 2 people who in the next 15 years are going to be trustees.
And I think also, Mary, by us recommending, resident committees, that becomes a pool of potential candidates, right? As people get involved and they see the process, they'll get more interested and possibly will serve as a trustee or as mayor.
Okay, and lastly, this is a little bit out of order, but it seemed like a fine question to leave for the end. Does FABGC have all that is needed to be on the ballot? And how can we help FABGC candidates get elected?
Like that question.
That's a great question.
That's why I saved it for the end. It felt
Right
a little
on track.
self-serving, but so be it.
We are organizing now. We are pretty much, done with the petition phase of our campaign, and we'll be moving on to the next phase, and we will need all hands on deck. So email, our website is fabgc.org, and you can email there and let us know you're interested in helping out. You can also contact any of us individually and let us know that you're interested, and we'll help you get more involved. Anyone want to add anything else as far as how we're going to get this, involve more people in the next step of the
Yeah,
campaign?
Keep reaching out to our friends and neighbors and let them know that, we're running and we need their help, and maybe to go around some of the blocks and talk to people and things like that. A little harder to do now with COVID, but we'll have to figure out a way. But we have to spread our message out as to as many people as we can.
Yeah, I think that, first of all, I'm so proud to be part of this slate. I'd like everyone to look at voting for the whole slate as a group, because I think we have a lot to offer as a team, as Cosmo said earlier. Secondly, I wanted to thank everybody who's been reaching out to me. I'm getting a lot of response. I was actually surprised at the amount of response, and favorable. And they're asking how they can help, as that question you brought up, John. And I believe that what I'm going to do is, I think we established Effie Campbell as a point person where we can introduce them to Effie, and she can give them opportunities to be supported for us, in addition to all the networking that Bruce said is most important if you're interested in voting for us.
And she can be reached at that info.fabgc@gmail.com. She can be reached directly there. And that's on our website, and it's on the page.
Well said about electing the whole slate, Tom. That's something we definitely need.
Just remind everyone to vote on March 16th.
Right. Spread the word and definitely reach out. We need as many helpers.
It's a very easy date to remember. It's the day before St. Patty's Day.
Absolutely. A good day to celebrate after, hopefully.
It is, and Bruce already has his green out. I'm happy to see that. As do I.
Little darker, yep.
So John, did we cover all the questions?
Yes, although Siobhan raised her hand.
I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. Thank you so much. It's been really a pleasure getting to know each one of you, and just through each meeting, it's fascinating, and I find it incredible how many more people are just getting involved in our community through this. So can't be a bad thing. It's a great thing that, hopefully, no matter what, we all stay involved and,
Yes.
make for a better garden city. So thank you guys so much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Dawn.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We'll be back again next Wednesday, and we could do open, or if people want to talk more in depth about a particular topic, you can send us that as well. And we could do a theme if you'd prefer. So reach out with your ideas, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks,
Good night.
Mary.
Thanks, Mary. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, John. Great job.
John.
Thank you very much.
Good night, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.